Welcome back to How to Tickle Yourself. I'm your host, Duff McDonald, along with my co-host, Matt McButter. We have a special treat for you today. He's kind of a one-man circus act. His name is Michael Rayner, but he's better known by the moniker the Broken Juggler. He's been on America's Got Talent, The Late Late Show with James Corden, David Letterman, and more. Like our friend Chunk the Groundhog, the Broken Juggler is proof that the internet really is a force for good. I cannot scroll by this man's Instagram page without stopping and usually laughing. He juggles tennis rackets, spins Burger King cheeseburgers and donuts on a parasol, throws a Nicolas Cage pillow over the back of his head into a basketball net while doing all of the above, and also perched on a balance board. His TikTok pages have 425,000 followers, and get this, we don't like to count here on How to Tickle Yourself, but this number is big. 225 million views. Michael's act has been described as preposterous brilliance and wacky jugglement, which means he is our perfect guest, a man who most certainly knows how to tickle himself and in turn tickle millions of the rest of us every day. Welcome to the show, Michael. It is great to have you.
The weird thing is I love to tickle myself. This is an apropos place for me. Last night, I launched a video today that I just figured out last night. And after I completed it, I tickled. I was thrilled that it worked. It was very bizarre and weird, and I feel like I'm home. I've been on a long journey, and I've not reached my people.
At the present moment, traveling town to town, the mystery of the motion. Right here, right now. Right here, right now. Whoa, right here, right now.
So tell us, how does one end up doing these kinds of stunts? That's clearly your driveway, right? Is that the driveway?
Yes. I mean, the weird thing is, I don't want to give credit to the demon COVID, but I didn't really, I would post a little bit on social media. And then when in a week I had 120 shows canceled, and I was like, well, I'm going to be in my house a while. And so I was like, I'm going to commit to social media. What else can I do? I was going to go crazy instead, like many of us, all of us, you know what I mean? So I just would go out every day with an agenda to post something weird. And my mantra was at least post. Don't micromanage it. It's not good enough. It's not the best. Figure something out and then just go from there. Because I did shows forever. You saw my bio, you read my bio. That was my thing, But I was one of those idiots that thought that TikTok was just dancing girls, and then I realized it's a whole breadth of people doing real estate TikTok, political TikTok. I'm obsessed with science TikTok. And so that's how I just started my social media journey. Before that, it was just a whole bunch of shows, with different clients.
So how did all that even get started? Have you always been?
Go back.
Yeah,
we're
go back.
Go old school. This is exciting. We're going super old school. I graduated in a small town in Michigan. It was just nothing was going on. When I was in Michigan, the small town I was in was 20 minutes south of Flint, and Flint was rated the worst city to live in by Money Magazine.
You know what? I worked there then. I worked there when they did. Yeah.
Duff rated it. Duff's the one who rated it the worst city.
There you go. So I graduated with a 1.97 grade point average. On my senior trip in high school, I saw a juggler named Michael Davis, who was amazing. And I was also a big fan of Steve Martin. And then after high school, I had a lot of kind of like thug friends that were doing minor petty crimes around our small town, like stealing snowmobiles. And I don't know if you know this, when you steal a snowmobile in the snow, the police can find it because there's tracks to the snowmobile.
Worst thing to steal ever.
Worst thing. And so I just started doing my own thing for a couple of years, just practicing, 2 hours, 3-4 hours a day. This is pre-internet. This is I'm coming up on 60 years old on the 31st of this month, and I would just read books about circus tricks. I know that's weird that a physical activity, I would have to look at diagrams and go, oh, okay, I think I can do that. And I started practicing at 18. 2 years later, I just started doing shows, and it was amazing.
So that's been your whole career.
Yeah, I mean, that's always like my day job. Which is weird that that's my day job. But then on occasion, I'll get hired I'll write I wrote for Nickelodeon for a bit. I wrote a pilot and a talk show. We did a bunch of test pilots when I was in Orlando. I worked at Nickelodeon when it was sort of based out of Orlando. And then I would write weird stuff for like the Game Show Network because a friend of mine said, hey, do you want to do this? Because I could do that in my spare time, where we would write little interstitial bubble stuff for like the old Game Show Network, where they would show clips of of various game shows, and then we write a little fact about it, something dumb like that. So little. I wrote a pilot, but the tricks have always been the day job. Then when I got to LA, I had a nice hot streak of just as an actor doing TV commercials. I think I did like 65 national TV commercials. But
Jesus.
The show was always the day job that kept me going so that I could go do all these other fun things, And so that's how that worked out. So yeah, I mean, I've worked every amusement park, library, warm up on sitcoms, which was super fun. I loved warm up on sitcoms, but that was very emotional and taxing because if the sitcom goes well, everyone loves you. But if people aren't laughing at the sitcom during a live studio taping, they just blame the warm-up. So it was always very emotionally taxing on those.
It's like, oh yeah, this show sucks. Must have been the juggler at the beginning of the show that didn't get the audience into the right mood. Come on.
And here's the thing about that too, because I have a lot of buddies that do that. You have to look at the show and get the vibe, because you can be too funny, because I saw that I was getting way more laughs on this one show than the show itself. And then I wasn't asked back because I wasn't matching the energy of the show. So weird.
My wife and I, we at Burning Man in 2019. When was COVID? 2020. Yeah. So Burning Man 2019, my wife and I got encaged at a Nicolas Cage temple.
Oh,
so I understand, I think, the pillow. But please tell us about the pillow.
Here is the saddest part about all of life. It's serendipity. It's just serendipity. Here, this is how it all happened. I have two daughters, one 18, one 21. One was cleaning out. She was moving into the back room so they both could have their own rooms now. And she was getting rid of stuff. She had a Nicolas Cage pillow that she then didn't want anymore. She thought it was funny and kitschy, which it is. And she said, take this to Goodwill. Well, this is not a thing for Goodwill. This is something to do a TikTok with. And I got it. And then weirdly enough, one of my videos has a ladder in it, a black ladder that now is featured quite prominently. I just was driving by a going out of business thrift store sale, and I saw that ladder, and I said, well, I think I could do this and this, and I kind of put together the bit. Well, that bit went 26 million on Instagram. Josh Brolin put it on his story and said he wanted to be me. Jennifer Gardner put it on her Instagram. I think it's still there somewhere. It's deep in the feed. Those two things alone, I think I was at like 38,000 followers or something like that. Then I went to 100,000 and then other people pick things up, and then it just growth. And I'm now at like 152,000 Instagram followers. Now Rosie O'Donnell she always comments on my stuff because she loves the Nicolas Cage pillow. She's asked me to marry her, so I asked the wife. I might be in a throuple after today. I don't know. So we'll see.
Awesome. So when you do these social media things, I mean, I guess the other thing I've thought about is when you're doing a live show, you sort of have to have your act together, and you can make a mistake and kind of laugh it off and that kind of thing, but you're trying to kind of perfect it with your rehearsals and practice. But social media is this new thing where you can attempt something probably like that. That's what I wanted to like. Do you sometimes attempt something for hours and hours and hours, and you're just recording and waiting until you get you're doing the juggling, and it's like, okay, right. I got the Nicolas Cage reverse 3-pointer from or there's a time it's stuck in the hole, right?
Oh, you saw that one. That was one of my favorites because it wasn't meant to go in the hole, and now I've got a new backboard actually. But sometimes I'll lift videos from like a year ago that I thought are cool, maybe put new music or whatever. But that whole line was strangely gratifying because I can hear if it goes in the basket, because there's a certain sound when it hits the net. Because sometimes I'm not looking at the camera because I'll want to get the better camera, so I'll switch it. Sometimes I am looking, but even when I'm looking at the camera, it's sometimes in such a position that I have to squint. Oh, and you know what? That was when I didn't have my cataract surgery, so I couldn't even see the camera at that point in time. Now I even know timeline things. But when it went in the hole like that, that was just serendipity also. And I thought it was far more entertaining than actually going into the basket. It just stuck right in there. But here's the weirdest thing. I did a mega shot that also went viral where it's like almost a half court. I think I was spinning a donut, made a half court shot. I put it to a Beatles song and it started to go crazy. I went out and did that shot in like 5 minutes. I always think in terms of 5 minutes. Well, then somebody wanted me to use a real donut because that donut was a fake donut. So I was like, oh, I'll go redo it with a real donut, then take a bite out of it. Because they asked me, it's more content. I'm answering a question, engaging with the people. That time it took me 70 minutes. So sometimes I can go out and I hit it in 5 minutes. Other times it's like 70 minutes. Then there's moments like if I work on something for 2 hours, I'll kind of set it aside, rethink it, maybe work on a different thing, and then revisit it later. Like the trick that I just posted today, it wasn't working for a couple days. I'd worked on it like, 20 minutes a day. And then it clicked in. Sometimes things just click in. The behind the back shot now, I've got it so I can get that if it's a mid-level shot, a mid-range, like free throw level shot, that I can get once every 7 times. Then adding the other trick component is pretty easy after that. So that's a lot of information. You've become very adept at
behind the back 3-pointers with a Nicolas Cage pillow.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
there was
a unique skill. That is a unique skill.
There's a December 7th post where he says, pony mask, because he was wearing the pony mask. Nicolas Cage basket racket trio in a rocking chair. Have I gone too far? So listeners, like if you haven't done it already, like stop, hit pause on this show and go watch some of these so that you know what we're talking about. All right. So what about, have you gotten a donut sponsor yet?
I want a donut sponsor. I'll tell you all the sponsors. I mean, I had Hardee's reach out, which, where are you? You guys, are you on the East Coast?
East Coast.
I'm in Canada, but I'm familiar with the Hardee's.
Hardee's is like Carl's Jr. out here, but I did a trick on TikTok that went 16 million. Then SportsCenter Instagram put it on theirs and it went 32 million. And I was between Michael Jordan and Giannis, and that was a thrill of my life to be on SportsCenter Instagram and between those two legends, which is weird. Then Hardee's reached out to me to make a couple videos for them, and I just had to do like a fun trick and then eat one of their toaster sticks. So it wasn't even donut related. So there was that. I also did a thing for an app called Blinkist, and then Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone just bought one of my videos, and then a bunch of other people have bought videos just that are already made. To this day, to this day, I cannot understand why either burgers or donut shops, I would be exclusive to them. I would be the most loyal pitchman, and yet they have not reached out.
Well, the
Right.
burgers. Okay, we got to talk about
You'd be so
one
much
thing that
better
you do.
than Jared, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
what
so
does Jared have
There's
on
so
Michael?
many levels to
You're
that.
setting the bar. You're setting the bar pretty low there, Duff. No, so, but Michael, we got to talk about. And I was wondering if this was in reverse or not. Did you actually wrap a burger on top of a parasol while spinning it, or are you unwrapping it and playing it in reverse?
Of course, I'm doing in reverse, and
I know,
because I'll do hints. Like sometimes I'll use the soundtrack to Tenet, which is all about
cool
inverted objects.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing about Christopher Nolan films is even in the dialogue, the woman says to the lead character, I cannot remember his character name, who says, "Don't even think about it. Just don't even worry about it." She says something like that. The scientist, when he's showing the inverted objects.
Oh yeah.
And so I'll put Easter eggs that, yes, of course it's reversed, but then people feel they need to say, "Oh, that's reversed." So
I knew it was either in reverse or else it was an inverted hamburger.
right.
Yeah.
But because we have In-N-Out out here and they have those little pouches, I did an In-N-Out reversed where it goes into the pouch, but I'm like, you know what? This pouch is such a size that I think I could throw it down there and roll it in, and you go deep in my feed, deep, deep, deep. I don't know if it's like a year and a half ago. I actually did catch an In-N-Out burger in the pouch and roll it up. So yeah.
Amazing.
Okay, so do you get? You mentioned before. Do you get ideas from your viewers, like, or is it all from the craziness in your own mind?
Oh, it's craziness, and then like if somebody asks for something or an explanation, and if I'm now I'm getting back into a lot of shows, so I'm pulling old videos and putting them up, like, and then I'll make, like, I made a new one yesterday. Or the greatest thing is when people do ask questions that I said, "Oh, I can do what they wanted." And then it's content that I don't have to really think of because I'm running out. And like last night, I had a show and I have one tomorrow, and then I have one on Thursday, and then one on Friday. And then, like, if it's like the Friday one is in San Diego. So time is much more valuable now. So if somebody says something, I'll even sometimes go, "I got to go do something. Let me look at the feed and see what people have said." And then I can go throw one down if I'm really busy. So yeah, mostly me, but I would say, 5% when people ask, I'll do something for them,
I've wondered occasionally about sort of celebrity of size like you have there. How do you have someone reading your things for you? How do you read 5,000 posts on one trick? How do you carve out the time?
It's usually a lot of times, at the very beginning when something because I've had I think I've had 16 TikTok videos go over 1 million. When it's starting to go viral, I try to keep up with it until about, I can just scroll really quickly and see what people are saying. Mostly they're saying like, "Great, cool, epic, blah, blah, blah." But then if somebody says something that stops me, I might respond. And then that's how I might find something that I can use for a trick. Same thing with Instagram. But once it goes mega viral, like, I know when things go over 1 million and I've got 3,000 comments, I think I might have only looked, or even sometimes I'll even have 20,000 comments. I only look at the first 1,000 or so, something like that. And then, I want to get to the place where I can hire a social media manager that looks at all the comments. That would be awesome.
Right. Matt.
An engagement officer.
Yeah, Matt, you're looking for looking for a new gig?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's above my pay grade, Duff.
What about international? Like, I assume you are a global star. Are people is the requests for shows and stuff, is it totally international?
Well, when I was doing Zooms, I Zoomed like during the pandemic. I did some Zoom shows to, I think I did one to England, but then a lot of domestic here in the United States, but to like, Baltimore, Portland, various places. Some I would Zoom into the show, but then how the feed went, it went to like the company 1-800-Flowers hired me for a Zoom show during the pandemic. And that feed was just going everywhere for them. But so I haven't been, I mean, people want me to come to their places. I'm in that weird position now where if people, I would love to go to other locations if they can just hire me. And it wouldn't even have to be an exorbitant pay for flights and a little bit of money. I'd love to go to international gigs, that'd be awesome.
And what do you consider at this point your greatest stunt yet?
Gosh, I think, the weirdest thing is it's like, there's the one that I did in COVID that it was one of my favorites, even though now I've surpassed it, but it was, it was the one that I really liked, mid COVID. I learned how to spin the racket on one stick and then juggle 2 fire torches in the other hand. And it was like splitting my brain in 2 positions. The one today is similar in a way because one is a juggle movement up and down and the other is a spin move. And it was fire torches. And I put it up and it started to go well on TikTok and Instagram. And TikTok didn't take it down, even though they usually take down my fire stuff. But on Instagram, this was the first time I had a celebrity encounter where I wake up and I have like 1,000 more followers. And this is, mid-COVID. And it was Jessica Chastain. She just loved it. It was very exciting. Zero Dark 30 was totally down with the trick. And it was like one of the times that I'm starting to think differently because of COVID. Like I had my established show, but to do 2 different things with 2 different hands. And it's really opened up new tricks. And so that was something now it's like my great white whale is trying to ride a unicycle and bounce juggle 5 balls. That's like, I can do a quick flash of it, but I can't keep it going. And that's what I want to do. I don't know if audiences, half the time you work on a super technical trick and audiences are like, whatever. And then you do something that you think is ridiculous. And they're like, oh, that's amazing. So, you never know.
So the internet, I mean, social media, so crazy. Yet just yesterday, I came upon a new sport that I'd never heard of called combat juggling. Are you familiar with it?
Very much. I am not a proponent of combat juggling just because I don't want to get whacked with, like, you don't hit each other, but you try to hit the pins out of people's hands. And I have buddies that do it. These are all things that they do at juggling conventions. Now, here's the thing. I have been a juggler making money since 1984. And I've never once went to a juggling convention because it's sort of like, I don't know, like a plumber is just a plumber and they don't go to the plumber convention. You know what I mean? And I just, it's like, I'm doing my job and I'm always very busy. And these are all machinations of taking juggling in these weird, like, because there's also joggling where you juggle and jog at the same time. There's
I have not heard of that one.
Yeah, now there's this new one where it's like a juggling volleyball where you juggle, then you throw one over, and then they have to catch it and juggling it, and it's like a juggling volleyball type of situation. There's all these variations, and it's like, I think it's amazing. I always love seeing all these things. A lot of people that I know are amazing technical people, and then they do these weird offshoot things, but it's very niche. I'm always trying to figure out what can I do in a comedy club or a small space or even a house show. I just did a house show last night that I can take with me that can fit in defined spaces, and a lot of these things can't. So I like it, but it's just not my thing.
And what about, so we're friends, we had on here last year a couple fire spinners that we know who are big burners. Do you do a lot of fire stuff? You like fire?
I love fire stuff. In fact, if you look at my feed, I light the cheeseburger on fire. You know, that's one of the highlights. After I spin it regular, then I tell the audience we're going to go crazy, and I douse it with lighter fluid, and I spritz my parasol with water, and then I spin a flaming cheeseburger. Then I learned how to bounce a flaming cheeseburger off my knee, and then 2 parasols transferring a flaming cheeseburger back and forth on top. Then it's like, then I was learning how to spin the fire racket. I put a wick on a racket, and now I have a fire tennis racket, and then juggle 2 flaming torches at the same time. So yeah, I love all the variations of fire. I do the fire tennis racket on my unicycle, which I find therapeutic and fun. I know it's weirdly therapeutic. But yeah, I love fire stuff. You know?
But you said the TikTok police sometimes aren't a fan of that.
I was every time I said, "Hey, this is what I do. This is my job," they just wouldn't believe me. So I didn't risk it. Then I put one thing that I didn't even think was that dangerous. Like I was balancing a wheelbarrow on my chin and doing my tennis racket trick, and they banned me for like 2 weeks. I was totally banned. My site was still available, but no one could see it, and I couldn't see it, but it was still in some limbo land. And I have some celebrity friends in LA. My friend Matty Cardropel, who he's a character actor and everything these days. He's awesome and he's amazing. He had the backdoor number email to where you could actually get some customer service. And I said, hey, this is my gig. This is what I do. This is not old man danger in a backyard. And then all of a sudden, after I did that, like 3 days later, I appeared. But the thing that made me mad was they demonetized me for the rest of the 6 months. And during that demonetization time, I had a video go 16 million. It's like, you demonetized me when I have my biggest video ever.
Wow. So they can just unilaterally.
Yes.
You know, that's fucked up.
It is a love-hate relationship. I've been really enjoying Instagram. I've been getting paid by Instagram, and I have more celebrity interaction on Instagram, but all the platforms are valid, you know, just getting outreach out there to people, you know, so.
I think, Matt, we might have found the ultimate statement of ticklehood, which was Michael Rayner saying, I learned how to bounce a flaming cheeseburger off my knee.
Yeah.
There is no more ticklish move than that.
No.
Can't disagree.
All right. So where can if people are down to see you live, where do you perform? Where are you performing coming up?
I'm many Saturdays, unless I get a better gig. I have a standing family show. This is a family show for anybody. It's called 2 Milk Minimum at Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank. Then coming up January 30th to February 5th, I will be at the Magic Castle in Hollywood. And that's always a big fun show. And you got to be a member. So find a member. My comp list is always like immediately when it's announced, it gets completely filled up.
And you have to wear a suit too, right? You have to dress up for the Magic. Yeah.
Then after that, coming up, I think it's March 29th to April 2nd, I'll be in Seattle at the Moisture Festival up in Seattle with a bunch of other variety people. And then weirdly enough, during the summers, June, July, and August, and pretty much anywhere in Southern California, you can find me at a local library because they pay well, and I go do my show at libraries. They do not allow the fire, but I still will be doing many of the tricks all across Southern California. And then on occasion, I go down to Hermosa Beach Comedy Magic, but that's always like, whenever I don't have a gig, I call them up and say, hey, can I come on down? And they say yes. And so it's super nice.
All right. Well, look, thank you for making me laugh countless times. Thank you for making everyone laugh countless times. It's a hoot. I remember stumbling on you and just thinking, oh my God, I love everything about the internet. again.
I love the internet. It's been very, very helpful. I never believed it. I always thought it was more of a force of darkness and a force of good, but it's like Star Wars. You just got to use the good side of the force on the internet. You know, it's not the dark side, it's the good side. So there you go.
Listeners, Broken Juggler on all platforms. Michael Rayner, thank you for taking the time, and thank you for all the laughs. It's amazing.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. All right.
Cheers, man.
Bye.
Okay, so yeah, Broken Juggler and Chunk the Groundhog might actually be my two favorite Instagram pages. But Michael Rayner's stuff is so good because it's so stupid.
Yeah, I know it is. Well,
it's
you can
stupid
see,
but great. It's stupid but great.
You can
right?
see how it like really like translates to just, you know, fun stuff. Like, think the way that people consume social media. Like, you're really just looking for, you know, very short form, a giggle, right? Just, it's like, you just want, it could be 5 seconds, it could be 10 seconds, but you're often just looking for like a little chuckle, and he's just got post after post of that. So it's no wonder that he's like totally taken off. Also interesting that, you know, he said, I can't remember how he put it, but I don't want to kind of bow down to the evil of COVID or whatever, but he's almost kind of attributing the quietness of COVID to, you know, to making this, which no problem with that. So many great things came out of it. So, like, great albums came out of it. And it's not that it came out of COVID. It's not that it came out of like the sickness, but it came out of, you know, it was a byproduct of the quietude that we've talked about a lot on this podcast.
Great books. Some great books came out
excellent
of it.
Books, excellent podcasts.
No, you're totally right. It's like one of the things that the yogis talk about a lot is the whole issue of relativity, right? Nothing is absolute good or bad, especially events, right? It all depends on your point of view, right? So COVID bad for reasons A, B, C, great for reasons D, E, F. And when we get stuck labeling something and thinking that it's only one thing, doesn't allow your mind to work and be creative. And like, look at Michael Rayner. One of the other great things about his his stuff is the look on his face when he's doing it.
Yeah.
It is pure comic gold.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the whole thing about people taking the time and getting really creative, great albums, great everything, right? Like, there were bad things about COVID, there were great things. I totally agree. And he's one of them because he makes me laugh every day. Yeah.
Like you said about the internet too. I mean, every technology, same thing, you know, TikTok, social media, there is, it's Star Wars. You can apply Star Wars to it, right? It can be used for a force of good, can be used for a force of evil. It all depends on how you harness the force. Yeah,
totally. And, you know, people ranting and raving about how horrible social media can be. I wrote a story for Wired a couple years ago called Instagram, My Daughter and Me. And,
oh yeah, I read that.
And it was just about how I use Instagram to tell her I love her. It's like, what's so fucking bad about that, people? Get a hold of yourselves. It's all depends on what you do.
So he had one gig that he mentioned that I've always wanted to go to the Magic Castle. Like, it's been on my radar when I visited LA. Are you familiar with this place in Hollywood?
I think our friend Kamran may have gotten married there.
Oh, wow.
Or something else. He was
something there.
I've never been, but Kamran knows it well.
Yeah, I've heard people talk about it. You have to be a member, and you have to dress up. I mean, similar to Stephen Cohen's Parlor Magic, where everyone's required to dress up. And I guess there's just different shows, but it's also it's like a network of magicians. That's always kind of fascinated me. Like magicians, the members are magicians, not just magic enthusiasts.
Right.
And so you can see how,
that's like
juggling is a form of magic.
Our friends at McKittrick have this magic show, which is just astounding. They have like 7 magicians. You sit down at these tables. So where you're basically 3 feet from the magician. They perform for you for like half an hour, and then the magicians get up and change seats. So you get to see like 6 or 7 magicians from 2 or 3 feet away. So it's not like being in a theater where only one row or whatever has the great view. And yeah, I realized then they were talking about the sort of magician scene in New York City. And I was like, there's a scene? Really? Where? Well, that's one of it. All right, so I've got one for you. This one's a little weird. But it's Michael Rayner's a bit of a clown, right? He's like a juggling clown. And so this is from a book I was reading the other day, and they're talking, it's just a sentence of absurdities. It just seemed apropos with Michael Rayner. A clown once related a story that a barren woman's son mounted a chariot reflected in a mirror and decorated with silver taken from the sheen of mother of pearl, armed himself with weapons made of human horn, fought in the battlefield of the sky, killed the future king, subdued the city of aerial hosts, and enjoyed himself with dream maidens on the banks of the waters of a mirage.
Cool.
There you go.
Okay, I've got one for you, ish, and it's Nicolas Cage, right? Everyone knows him as, pretty famously that he's the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, but decided not to go by his birth name, Nicholas Coppola, because he didn't want to trade on the name. He kind of wanted to, I guess, branch out. And he chose the name from the comic book superhero Luke Cage, who nobody had really heard of. I guess it was more of an obscure character, but there's now a Netflix series. I think it's Marvel. Luke Cage. So Nicolas Cage actually took the Cage part from comic book superhero Luke Cage. It's more of an origin story than a.
No, there's no end to the things that are awesome about Nicolas Cage. Right?
Oh God, yeah. Have you ever seen the clip of the bees? The bees. I think it's from Wicker Man. It's just it's like it's one of dozens of Luke Cage or Nicolas Cage memes, right? Like he gets the guy is like a walking meme. Like he turns into a meme, so much so that he did that movie last year, a couple of years ago, maybe it was during COVID, the unbearable lightness of being
Nicolas Cage,
or of being awesome or something.
I haven't seen it yet.
No, what is it? Oh God, I got to look it up. Nicolas Cage.
Did you see it? Is it good? Luke saw it.
Yeah, it's absurd, but the unbearable weight of massive talent.
Right.
22 film from last year. Yeah, Deb and I watched it, and it was kind of awesome, kind of absurd. I think it's Pedro Pascal and him. It's worth it. It's worth a watch.
No, that's on the list. All right, so I've got to finish off today. This is a little farther out of left field as well. It's not an Aurobindo. It's from Balsakar. He's talking about Nisargadatta Maharaj. And they're talking about the difference between learning and understanding, right? So one of the things I talk about in Tickled is the difference between expertise and specialties, right? Experts know a bunch of stuff. Specialists understand how to do stuff. And the difference can seem a little subtle, but this was the example. He said, Maharaj explained that understanding is all and everything. When one knows what fire is, there is nothing to do in order to further understand what fire is. That's the difference between understanding and knowledge. You can know a whole bunch of different things, but once you understand something, game over. You're done. And I think Michael Rayner probably understands what fire is.
Yeah, Duff, I give you 3 fire emojis for that.
Thank you very much. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll be back in a week.
Bye-bye.
At the present moment, traveling town to town, the mystery of the motion, right here, right now, right here, right now, whoa, right here, right now.
You've been listening to How to Tickle Yourself with your hosts Duff McDonald and Matt McButter. You can help us by liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with others. You can talk to us and see what else is happening on Instagram and Facebook at How to Tickle Yourself. This program was recorded in Studio B of the historic Rockledge Recording Studio and the Tunnel Under Arundel. Right Here, Right Now, our original 16-part theme music was written and recorded by the legendary Paul Reddick and Kyle Ferguson of the Sidemen, with the brilliant Steve Mariner on bass and drums and in the mixing room. The podcast is produced and distributed by Storic Media. Our editor is Andrew Steiner. Our coordinator is Samantha Abramovitz. Our producers are Kristen Verbitsky and Chuck LaBella. For more information, visit storicmedia.com. That's STORIC media.com.
My love, my dear.